300 people dead, thousands injured. The military has declared a curfew.
Bangladesh extended a curfew.
Schools are closed. The internet is shut down. And a nation once filled with hope is now teetering on the brink of collapse. How did it come to this? And what does the future hold for millions of Bangladeshis caught in the crossfire? This is not just another protest. This is a nation at a crossroads. Today, we're diving deep into a crisis that's shaking the very foundation of Bangladesh. From the streets of Dhaka to the rural heartlands, the nation is in turmoil. Schools, colleges, and the internet are shut down, and a curfew has been declared. But what led us here? How did a nation born out of a struggle for freedom come to this point? Let's break it all down. To understand the present, we need to rewind to the past. Bangladesh's journey has been tumultuous right from its inception. After the 1970 general election in Pakistan, the Awami League, led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, secured a landslide victory with 160 seats compared to West Pakistan's 138. But rather than respecting the democratic process, the then ruler, Yahya Khan, imposed martial law on East Pakistan. Sheikh Mujib was arrested, and the people of East Pakistan were brutally oppressed. This led to the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War, where millions died, and over 10 million people were forced to flee to India as refugees. The war ended with the birth of Bangladesh, a nation built on the promise of freedom, democracy, and equal rights. In 1972, to honor the sacrifices made by the freedom fighters, a quota system was introduced in government jobs. Initially, it was reserved for the freedom fighters themselves, but as the years passed, this reservation was extended. First to their children in 1997, and later in 2010 to their grandchildren. However, by October 2018, the government issued a circular removing the quota system for first and second-class jobs. Fast forward to 2021, 7 children of freedom fighters filed a petition in the High Court challenging the 2018 decision. On June 5, 2024, the High Court sided with the petitioners, reinstating the quota system. But this decision ignited massive protests, led predominantly by students who felt that the quota system was unjust and outdated. The protests quickly turned violent, with clashes between students and the Bangladesh Chhatra League, the student wing of the Awami League. The violence escalated, and by July 10, 2024, the Supreme Court intervened, overturning the High Court's decision. This sparked outrage among freedom fighters' descendants and deepened the divide in an already polarized nation. For 15 years, the Awami League, under Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, has ruled Bangladesh, but her tenure has not been without controversy. Students are angry, pointing to her silence on the deaths of over 300 civilians in the recent protests and the thousands injured. Critics argue that the government has done little to address the root causes of the unrest: rising unemployment, inflation, and a crashing economy. Prime Minister Hasina is accused of adding over 60,000 fake names to the quota system. Besides this, she has also been accused of corruption. Even after the top court scrapped the quotas, the protests continued, spreading beyond students because the brutal crackdown unleashed more anger against Mrs. Hasina's government. According to the World Bank, per capita income tripled in the last decade as more than 25 million people were lifted out of poverty over 20 years. But many felt that the growth was mostly helping those close to the PM's Awami League. Corruption has been continuing for a long time without being punished, leading people to start calling her a dictator. Following this, student protesters have demanded Prime Minister Hasina's resignation. The protesters ignored the curfew and attacked the house, in which about 100 people died, after which Hasina resigned and left the country for India, and Bangladesh Army Chief General Waqar Zaman announced the formation of an interim government.
Interim government আমরা ফর্ম করব এবং interim governmenটের মাধ্যমে এদেশের সমস্ত কার্যকলাপ চলবে।
An interim government was swiftly formed, with Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus leading it. Known for his work in microfinance, Yunus was seen as a unifying figure who could guide Bangladesh. Chief Justice Obaidul Hassan, who was appointed during Sheikh Hasina's tenure and is seen by many as a loyalist to her administration, has now agreed to resign. This comes after hundreds of protesters gathered outside the Supreme Court, demanding his resignation due to perceived bias in his rulings. The economic situation is dire. Out of 170 million people who are of working age, 30 million are unemployed. The inflation rate is skyrocketing, and the economy is on the brink of collapse. The redefinition of the quota system is seen by many as merely a band-aid solution to a much deeper problem. The real issue is the lack of jobs. So what's the way forward for Bangladesh? It's clear that the reservation of quota jobs is just the first step. The government needs to create jobs, foster innovation, and invest in education and infrastructure. There must be meaningful dialogue between the government and its people, and accountability for the human rights violations that have occurred during these protests. Bangladesh stands at a crossroads. The choices made now will determine the future of this nation. Will it continue down a path of division and unrest, or will it emerge stronger with a renewed commitment to the principles that it was founded upon? Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe.